For almost 80 years, we called it a planet. Children learned its name in school. It sat proudly at the edge of our solar system as the ninth world in our cosmic family. Then in 2006, scientists voted, and just like that, it was gone, stripped of its title, reclassified, demoted to something called a dwarf planet. Most people shrugged and moved on. Pluto became a joke, a meme, the planet that got fired. But here is what almost nobody talks about. When we finally sent a spacecraft to actually look at Pluto up close for the very first time, what we found was so strange and so unexpected that scientists are still trying to explain it today. Floating mountains, red snow falling from the sky, a hidden ocean buried under the ice in one of the coldest places in the solar system, and a giant heart-shaped scar on its surface that is not what it looks like at all. Pluto is not the dead frozen rock we thought it was. It is something far stranger, and today we are going to talk about all of it. Let us start with where Pluto actually is, because most people have no real sense of how far away it sits. Our solar system has 8 official planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Pluto lives beyond all of them out in a region called the Kuiper Belt. This is a massive zone of icy objects, rocks and debris that stretches far beyond Neptune. Pluto is so far from the Sun that at its furthest point it is about 7.4 billion kilometers away. To put that in perspective, it takes light from the Sun about 8 minutes to reach Earth. It takes that same light over 5 hours to reach Pluto. 5 hours. The Sun from Pluto's surface does not look like the warm glowing ball we see every day. It looks like a very bright star. Still the brightest thing in the sky, but nothing like a sun. Just a brilliant point of light in a black freezing sky that gives almost no warmth at all. The surface temperature on Pluto drops to around -230 degrees Celsius. That is so cold that gases that are invisible in the air on Earth become solid ice on Pluto's surface. Nitrogen, methane, carbon monoxide, all frozen solid, lying across the ground like snow. For most of history, we knew almost nothing real about Pluto. We discovered it in 1930, and for the next 85 years it was just a tiny blur in our telescopes. Too far away, too small, too dim. We could see it existed, but we could not see any detail at all. Scientists had theories about what it might look like, but nobody really knew. Then NASA launched a spacecraft called New Horizons in 2006. The same year Pluto lost its planet status, ironically. New Horizons was a relatively small spacecraft, about the size of a grand piano, and it was sent on a one-way journey to Pluto. It had no way to slow down and orbit. It was going to fly past Pluto as fast as possible, take as many pictures and measurements as it could in a few hours, and then continue out into deep space forever. After 9.5 years of traveling through the solar system, covering about 5 billion kilometers, New Horizons arrived at Pluto in July 2015. And what it photographed changed everything we thought we knew about this world. The first thing that shocked everyone was the heart. Right there on Pluto's surface, sitting across its equator, was a giant pale shape, smooth and bright and enormous, roughly the size of Texas and Oklahoma combined. It was shaped almost perfectly like a heart. The pictures went everywhere. People called it adorable. They called it a cosmic Valentine. But scientists looked at that heart and immediately understood they were looking at something deeply strange. That heart is not a cute coincidence. It is a massive crater left behind by an ancient impact, possibly from a collision with another large object billions of years ago. Over time, this giant crater basin filled up with something, and what it filled up with is one of the most bizarre things in our solar system. The heart of Pluto is filled with a slowly churning glacier made entirely of frozen nitrogen, methane and carbon monoxide, not water ice like the glaciers on Earth, frozen poison. A slowly moving toxic sea locked in permanent deep freeze. But here is the part that surprised even the scientists most. That glacier is not just sitting there frozen and still. It is moving. Deep inside Pluto there is a tiny amount of radioactive heat left over from when the planet first formed billions of years ago. That faint warmth slowly rises up through the ice and causes the frozen nitrogen on the surface of the glacier to slowly bubble and churn, extremely slowly, too slow for human eyes to see in real time. But over thousands of years, this churning constantly reshapes the surface. It means that the heart of Pluto is always erasing itself. Any meteorite or space rock that crashes into that glacial sea does not leave a permanent crater. The churning surface slowly swallows it, pulls it down, erases it completely. Scientists call this process convection, and finding it on Pluto was completely unexpected. Nobody thought a world this small and this cold and this far from the sun would have enough internal energy to drive anything like that. And yet there it is. A living, moving, toxic glacier, slowly eating everything that touches it. Standing on the edge of that glacial sea, you would see something that looks like it belongs in a nightmare. Rising up from the boundary where the glacier meets the surrounding terrain are mountains. Enormous jagged mountains reaching over 3,000 meters high, taller than many mountains on Earth. But these are not rock mountains. Rock on Pluto is irrelevant. At minus 230 degrees Celsius, water ice becomes as hard as granite, harder actually. The mountains of Pluto are made of solid water ice. Razor-sharp peaks of frozen water standing like walls around the edges of the toxic glacier. And because water ice is less dense than the frozen nitrogen of the glacier, these mountains do not simply sit on the ground next to it. They float. Enormous mountain ranges the size of entire countries slowly breaking off and drifting across the surface of the nitrogen sea like giant icebergs, moving almost impossibly slowly, but moving nonetheless. A frozen ocean with floating mountains drifting silently across it under a pitch-black sky. And if you looked at the tops of those floating mountains, you would notice something that would make your skin crawl. The snow on their peaks is not white, it is red, dark blood red. This happens because of the faint ultraviolet light from the distant sun. When that light hits the frozen methane on Pluto's surface, it triggers a chemical reaction. The methane molecules break apart and reform into new compounds called tholins. These tholins are a dark reddish-brown color, and they fall from the sky like a slow, constant drizzle, coating everything they land on in a layer of dark red dust. The mountains are white ice stained red at their peaks. The landscape around the glacier is dusted with dark red powder. The sky itself on Pluto has a thin atmosphere, and when that atmosphere catches the faint sunlight, it glows. But it does not glow blue like Earth's sky. It glows a pale, eerie blue that scientists did not expect at all. New Horizons captured an image of Pluto with the sun behind it, and you could see this thin, glowing blue ring of atmosphere around the dark silhouette of the planet. It is one of the most hauntingly beautiful images ever taken in the history of space exploration. Now let us talk about the thing that might be the most shocking discovery of all. For a long time, scientists assumed that Pluto was frozen solid all the way down to its core. Cold on the surface, cold in the middle, cold everywhere, a frozen rock through and through. But when scientists studied the data from New Horizons more carefully, they found something that did not add up. The heart-shaped glacier is enormous and heavy, a giant mass of frozen material sitting in one location on the planet. That kind of uneven weight distribution should have caused Pluto to slowly tip and roll over millions of years ago, repositioning itself so that heavy region lined up with the gravitational pull of its largest moon Charon. But Pluto did not roll the way the physics predicted it should. Something was counteracting the weight. Something underground. Scientists worked through the mathematics and came to a conclusion that seemed almost impossible. Beneath the frozen surface of Pluto, kept liquid by the pressure of the ice above and the faint radioactive heat from below, there may be an ocean of liquid water. Not frozen. Liquid. An ocean buried under the ice in one of the coldest, most remote places in our solar system. We do not know for certain. We cannot confirm it yet, but the evidence points strongly in that direction. And if there is liquid water under Pluto's ice, then the question that always follows liquid water in space immediately arises. Could something be alive in that darkness, swimming through a pitch-black underground ocean billions of kilometers from the sun? We genuinely do not know, and that uncertainty is one of the most extraordinary things about modern space science. Pluto does not travel through the darkness alone. It has 5 moons, the largest of which is called Charon, and Charon is remarkable in its own right. Most moons are tiny compared to the planet they orbit. Our own moon is about 1/4 the size of Earth, but Charon is enormous compared to Pluto, about half the size of Pluto itself. This makes them less like a planet and a moon and more like a binary system, 2 worlds orbiting each other. They are tidally locked to each other, meaning the same side of Pluto always faces Charon and the same side of Charon always faces Pluto. If you stood on the Pluto-facing side of Charon, you would see Pluto hanging huge and still in the sky. Never rising, never setting, just there, always watching. And if you stood on the far side of Pluto, you would never see Charon at all. It is hidden permanently on the other side of the planet. Charon has its own strange features. Its north pole is covered in a massive dark reddish stain that scientists have named Mordor macula. This stain is not from Charon itself. It is made of material that escaped from Pluto's atmosphere, drifted through space across the gap between the two worlds and froze onto Charon's pole. Pluto and Charon are literally sharing the same atmosphere, bleeding into each other, two small cold worlds holding on to each other in the dark. Beyond Charon, Pluto has four smaller moons called Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. These small moons do not orbit in the predictable calm way that most moons do. They tumble, they spin chaotically. Scientists think they were formed from debris left over from a massive ancient collision, and they have been tumbling unpredictably ever since. Four chaotic spinning rocks dancing around a dwarf planet and its giant moon in the outermost reaches of the solar system. So why did we take away Pluto's planet status in the first place? The answer comes down to a definition. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union, the organization of scientists responsible for officially naming and classifying things in space, decided to create a formal definition of what a planet actually is. According to their definition, a planet must do three things. It must orbit the sun. It must be massive enough that its own gravity has pulled it into a roughly spherical shape, and it must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit of other debris. That third condition is where Pluto falls short. Pluto sits in the Kuiper belt surrounded by thousands of other icy objects of similar size. It shares its orbital neighborhood. It is not gravitationally dominated and cleared its zone the way Earth or Jupiter or the other 8 planets have. So technically, under that definition, Pluto is not a planet. It is a dwarf planet. Many scientists still disagree with this classification, and the debate continues today. But the label has stuck and Pluto remains officially demoted. Here is what I think though, the label does not matter. Planet or dwarf planet or any other category we decide to put it in, Pluto is extraordinary. It is a world with a toxic glacier that eats craters. It has floating mountains of water ice. It has red snow falling from the sky. It has a blue glowing atmosphere. It may have a liquid ocean hiding under its surface. It has a giant moon that it shares an atmosphere with. It has 4 chaotic tumbling smaller moons. All of this on a world so small and so cold and so far away that for most of human history we could not even see it clearly. We sent one spacecraft there, one single mission, and it changed everything we thought we knew. Imagine what we might find if we sent another one. A mission that could actually slow down and orbit Pluto, spend months studying it properly, sending back detailed data about that possible underground ocean. Searching for signs that something might be alive in the dark beneath the ice. That mission has not been approved yet, but scientists are pushing for it. And if it ever happens, the discoveries could be unlike anything we have seen before. Pluto sits out there right now in the darkness, cold and quiet, its nitrogen glacier slowly churning, its mountains slowly drifting, its red snow slowly falling, its hidden ocean sitting in the dark beneath the ice. It does not know we stripped it of its title. It does not care. It was there long before any human being ever looked up at the sky, and it will be there long after our sun eventually burns out. We named it after the god of the underworld. And in a way, that name turned out to be more accurate than anyone realized, because Pluto is full of secrets, hidden things buried beneath the surface waiting to be discovered, the underworld of our solar system, and we have barely scratched the surface of understanding it. That is everything for today. If this changed the way you think about Pluto, make sure you subscribe because we have so much more coming. Next time we are going to talk about something that makes even Pluto seem warm and welcoming by comparison. There are places in our solar system so extreme, so violent, and so strange that they seem impossible. And they are right here in our own neighborhood. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.